I'm Morel. I'm a digital media teacher at Orange County School of the Arts, and today I'm going to talk to you about lighting and shading. Let's talk about value, by which I also mean shading and lighting. More specifically, in art, value is creating the illusion of light using different color and tonal shades. It's saying where the light source is hitting an object and where the light source is blocked in shadow. You could also just say it's how light or dark something is on a scale from black to white. But Morel, I just like drawing cartoons with flat colors, I hear you saying. I get it. But value is really important to learn. For example, maybe you've seen pictures like this going around of the same face with different lighting. Look how different this woman looks just from changing how the light is hitting her face. One of the things value can do is completely change the appearance and impression of your subject. That's a really useful tool. Value can help create the mood or emotion of a piece. It can also make things look more dimensional in 3D, and in general, it's just another tool in your artistic toolbox to help you achieve your goals with each art piece. Let's look at some examples. Here we have a classical painting by the artist Rembrandt called Descent from the Cross. This piece uses value beautifully for many reasons. It adds the mood and makes it very gloomy. It also leads the viewer's eye around the page, telling us first we should be looking in the brightest spot, at the middle, at Jesus. And then gradually it leads our eye around the page from lightest point to darkest point. For any of you Disney fans here, this is a piece of concept art for the movie Tangled by artist Paul Felix. This is one of my favorites because of how it uses value to tell a story. Again, it leads the eye around the page from Mother Gothel's bright face to Flynn being a little bit darker and around. It also sets the mood and the setting. We can tell it's nighttime. And it gives a piece of dramatic irony because of the bright glint on Mother Gothel's knife. Neither of these pieces would be as strong or impactful if it weren't for how the artists used value. So, what is the anatomy of lighting? Or, in other words, what are the different parts that work together to make up value on an object? Let's use this image as a diagram of the anatomy of lighting. First, we'll have a light source, which would be off screen in this case. This is where the light is coming from. Is it the sun? Is it a lamp? You have to decide as the artist. Then we have the center light. This is also sometimes called the direct light. This is the point at which the light is most squarely hitting the object. It's always going to be facing the light source. Next, we have the highlight. This is a reflection of the light source on the object. The position of the highlight actually depends on where the viewer is, and the intensity of it depends on the object's material, how shiny it is, basically. Then we have the halftones. This is just the gradient between the center light and the shadow. Next, we have the form shadow. This is the shadow that is on the object. Reflected light is light that is within what we would call the form shadow, but it's actually light that has hit the environment and bounced back onto the object, making the shadow a little lighter. Then we have the core shadow. This is the darkest part of the form shadow, between the center light and the reflected light, where the light and shadow meet. Then we have the cast shadow. This is the shadow cast on the environment by the object. It gets lighter the farther away it gets from the object, also due to reflected light. And then we have the occlusion shadow. This is the darkest part of the cast shadow right next to the object where most light is blocked. And that's the anatomy of lighting. Here are just a couple of tips for adding form and depth when you're working with value. Firstly, make sure your strokes follow the form. Instead of just doing straight crosshatch lines, try to curve your strokes to follow the form of the object. So if it's round, make your strokes curved. If it's straight, make them straight. This will just help add dimension to your drawing. And next, become familiar with shading simple shapes such as cubes, cylinders, and spheres. Then, practice finding these shapes in every object you draw. It'll become much easier to think about the correct shading if you break things down into simple shapes. Let's talk just a little bit about color. This is a whole lesson on its own, but here are some things you can start practicing in the meantime. Don't just shade with a darker or lighter tone of the same base color or local color. If you only change the saturation and brightness, it'll leave your shading looking kind of dead. Don't be afraid to play around with the hue and try different color mixes for your shading. Experiment with color. Shading and lighting color can depend on the environment around the object, the color of the light sources, and the mood that you're trying to convey. So try different methods and just have fun with it. Value can be intimidating, but honestly, the best way to get started is just start practicing. That's all I have to say about lighting and shading. I hope you'll join me next time. See you later.